What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the second album by rapper Slim Thug. Basically, this project is called Boss of All Bosses, and it came out in the spring of 2009. So the thing about this particular project is Slim Thug had a sizable career back in 2005. He was really blowing up in 2005 with the Houston rap blow up with folks like Mike Jones and Paul Wall and Bun B and some of those type folks, Chamillionaire, some of those type folks that were particularly large in 2005 and such. But really, Slim Thug was the one that kind of took the longest break about but really, Slim Thug was the one that took the longest break out of the batches that kind of came out of the Houston rap come up with like the mid 2000s. I'd have to say Mike Jones dropped an album in 2009 also, but it was this kind of concept that he also dropped an EP in 2007. Chamillionaire came out in 2007. Paul Wall came out in 2007. Bun B 2008. Folks like that. I'd have to say, but this in particular, as far as that pitch kind of went, this was kind of an album that was kind of seemingly wasn't going to come out for a little bit. It seemed like it just got delayed and delayed. I remember when this album was supposed to come out in 2008 and 2007, but it didn't. Just kind of the concept about it. I'm glad this album finally came out because it is a relatively excellent album. It has a minor amount of poor songs in here, but it's for the most part, it's a pretty overwhelmingly good project. I'd say it's definitely some excellent concept. It's a more sparse project just in terms like the sheer amount of songs. 13 songs in here, one of which is an over 8 minute song. So I would just have to say, I mean, there's a number of songs I really enjoy from this particular project, but I would have to say it's different from Already Platinum. This particular album does not have the Pharrell affiliation, which I remember Slim Thug saying that that was more like the major labels that wanted him to affiliate with Pharrell. Not like he doesn't like Pharrell, but it's just kind of the concept. It was just more for like some commercial buy as far as that particular kind of went with it. Songs like, I forget, I think it was called like I forget what that song was called. Maybe it was called Already Platinum, but it was one of the songs that had Pharrell on there that was in the summer of 2005. He did a number of songs with Pharrell back in those days, but this album is particularly different, more Texas fried, less commercial pitches like that. But there were two charting singles on here that did pretty well. Just an interesting batch to kind of get Slim Thug on some of those type pitches because back in like the late 2000s, if you didn't have a hit single that was like something that was like a top five something that was like a top five, top 25 type single, your album just didn't come out. There were a number of folks that just didn't. That's what happened with Chamillionaire. He was supposed to drop an album in 2009, but it didn't come out. Lil Flip was kind of having a bit of problems. Mike Jones was kind of having a bit of problems, folks like that. So it was just kind of around the time. I mean, Houston rap was definitely pretty large in 2005, 2006, but it kind of dried up by 2000. But it kind of dried up by 2008, 2009. That was kind of what happened. But surprisingly, the lead single "I Run" was a pretty hit single for Slim Thug. Not as big as like he was in 2005, but it was a good concept. It was just kind of a clever outing of a song. Definitely reminds of like 80s vibes and pitches like that. I'd say just some good concepts to kind of get there. So it's kind of the thing about it. This is a relatively quality album. I've yet to review Slim Thug on this particular channel as far as the pitching goes, but I definitely know about some of his stuff, including the stuff with Boss Hog Outlaws. That's what Slim Thug was doing in 2007, 2008. He kind of put his group on as far as that particular pitch kind of went. So I'm going to have to get to those albums at some point. I'd have to say Slim Thug has a number of mixtapes that I have to suppose in particular, so that's another good concept to kind of get there. There's a number of projects to kind of get to. I do eventually want to review Already Platinum from 2005 as well. That's more commercial, but I still look after it. Slim Thug may not be as big of a fan of that particular album, but it is a pretty nice one, I'd have to say. So there is some good stuff. So basically, I want to say that there were three singles off this project back in like 2008, 2009. Wikipedia used to list the fact that Smile was a single that was initially supposed to be the second single after I Run. It came out like in the winter. It came out like in the late winter, early spring of 2009. As far as that pitch can happen, it was kind of an assisted when this album came out in March 2009. But eventually, it just became Thug as far as that particular pitch can happen. Thug came out in late 2009. That's kind of an interesting pitch, but there were at least three singles. So I'm going to talk about all three of them despite the fact that it doesn't list Smile anymore. But the first single was I Run, and this came out in late 2008. It's like a glitzy kind of 80s vibe, cruise out type single. It had to say in particular. This one definitely feels Miami Fried. I'd have to suppose that pretty good concept for that. And it's like a radio ready appeal that this song particularly kind of has. And this is just like a Slim Thug kind of standout. So this one, if you do like 80s type feels of songs, just as far as that pitching goes, songs like that Rick Ross kind of did with Push It to the Limit, some of those type ones that were kind of on like the Scarface soundtrack and some of those type pitches, or Miami Vice. Vice City for the PlayStation, some of those type pitches. I'd say it's just some good concepts to kind of get this one in particular to some good 80s glitzy type feel. Just a real seedy type feel that has a lot of appeal towards it, but it does it in like a 2000s kind of fashion. So it's just kind of the concept that this is kind of like a nice nightclub song to kind of get here to some glitzy kind of pop rap, just some glitzy kind of relative pop rap as far as that pitching goes. At least it's commercials. Some Thug's going to get for the most part as far as that particular kind of goes, but it is an excellent highlight. Smile's the pseudo second single. I still consider this like the second single, but it's just less known as far as that pitch goes. There might have been a music video for it. I'm not as full blown sure, but I do remember this kind of being the second single. This one's like a jazzy and superb kind of electro radio hit. This one's like a jazzy and superb kind of electro radio hit for ladies, I'd have to say in particular. It's like a pretty good glossy spring energy that this song particularly kind of has, and this is just like some peppy kind of day traver. So a lot of these songs are some traver songs. This is a pretty car-centric album, I'd have to say. I do appreciate the concept of some cruise out type songs. There are some club songs on here, but most of these songs, even the club songs, kind of feel like you could be cruising out to some of these, just feeling your hair in the wind, some pitches like that, just kind of smoking in the whip, some pitches like that, just kind of in the breeze and spring and summer type energy. This is kind of a spring type album. It's not often that you get full-blown spring albums as much, especially in certain pageants. Most of them just kind of become melded to summer, but I feel like this kind of has, I feel like this particular album kind of has some dewy kind of spring energy as far as that particular pitch kind of has with this. An interesting type concept, but it works. Smile is definitely one of those songs that does that, and that's a pretty nice one. Then I would have to say, but yeah, it's just some peppy kind of day traverse, like I was saying, just some good concepts, kind of get some of this in particular, just some good out in the wind type stuff, just some great summer and spring type energy. Thug is the third single. This is a real highlighted one. This is a real standout for Slim Thug. I'd have to say it's like a snazzy kind of Texas fried club hitter of a song. I would definitely have to say in particular. It's like some demonic and kind of ghoulish, trippy productions on this particular song. Definitely an excellent type one. One of the best productions on this whole particular album, I'd have to say in particular. Just real standout type stuff. And this is just another standout for Slim Thug, I'd have to say. Not just standout off this album, but just a career highlight for him. I feel like this is probably one of Slim Thug's best songs, along with I Run. Both those singles are just pretty excellent type fare. But then I would go ahead and say that Smile is a career highlight for Slim Thug as well. This album is surprising just because it has some career highlights for Slim Thug. Now, the thing about this particular album is this was Slim Thug's like last ditch effort to kind of crack into like. The thing about this particular album is this was Slim Thug's last ditch effort to kind of crack into like the commercial spotlight just without Pharrell and pitches like that, and it kind of worked in some senses, but it's just kind of the concept of the one after this. The Thug Show was less commercial oriented. Slim Thug was still a pretty large name, but Slim Thug was still a pretty large name. But it was just kind of the concept that he just kind of became more underground and hardcore from that point forward as far as that pitch kind of went. But it's just kind of the concept. This is kind of like more in Tech Nine and kind of twisted type where it was kind of underground, but it was kind of commercial. Just some pitches like that. This would kind of have to say it was just a real nice one. Just would have to say all three of the singles are pretty sheer and highlighted, I had to say. But that's the concept about it. So basically, there's 13 songs on this particular album, and out of those 13, I wound up recommending 8.5. So it's kind of the concept about it. The basic thing about it is just being able to say that that's a little bit more than half. That's kind of why I say it's a good album, but it's not like a full-blown classic. It definitely has some career highlights for Slim Thug and some pitches like that. Some excellent type fare, some Texas Fried type folks on here. Zero's on here. UGK's on here is one of the final verses that Pimp C was on in his lifetime, probably. It's a pretty good pitch to kind of get that one. Paul Wall's on here. Yelawolf does the hook on I Run. Devin the Dude does the hook on here. Scarface is on here. I think I said that, but possibly I didn't. And there's like a posse cut with some Texas folks on here, like Mike Jones and Chamillionaire and Lil Kiki and some of those type folks. Big Pokey, some of those type folks, I'd have to say. But I just kind of look after it. Killa Killian's on here, which is an affiliate of Slim Thug. Forgot about that. He's part of the Boss Hog Outlaws, I'd have to say. But yeah, basically, to talk about the 8.5 songs I recommend. So the 8.5 songs would be I Run, Thug, I'm Back, Smile, Top Drop, Lean In, Associates, She Like That, and the Almost song is hard. So, and basically the concept about this particular album is on Spotify, they get 3 songs kind of screwed up in the order as far as that particular kind of pitch goes. Associates, Hard, and She Like That are in different name orders as far as that pitch goes on Spotify. So I would definitely just look for the album on Wikipedia to know the actual name of the song, because I think Associates is seen as like She Liked It. The 3 songs are kind of scrambled in the order that they're actually supposed to be in terms of the song names. So it's just kind of the concept about it. But I have them listed in like the correct order. I would have to say Spotify doesn't, but I just look after the page. So we'll just talk about these. So basically, Hard is the Almost song. This is like an in motion kind of hasty day traverse of a song. I'd have to say in particular. This is some definite errand running and task outings. I would have to say in particular. It's pretty similar to like a hustle song. I would definitely feel like this is just a pretty focused and mind focused type song. I'd have to say. This is just kind of a more bustling type one, I'd have to suppose. It's really kind of one for just getting stuff done and just kind of being out and about in pitches like that. And just kind of one for being out and about in pitches like that. Just really amidst like day activity, just kind of amidst the work shift and some of those type pitches as far as that particular kind of goes. Just a simple kind of basic type tune just for day traverse and summary type days, just within the breeze and pitches like that. Do appreciate the concept behind, but it's an almost song just for me because I just don't know how often I'd listen to it. It's kind of a song that's in motion when you're not in motion. If you're just more in like a smoking type mood or like a get crunk type mood or a ladies type mood, some pitches like that, it doesn't really have as much appeal. It's just kind of one to get some stuff done and kind of get some tasks done and kind of get the work done in pitches like that, just within the atmosphere, just trying to get it. It's just a more driven type song, just within the aspect. It's just kind of one I do appreciate, but it's just kind of concept that if you're not in more like hustle type mentality, it just doesn't have the same effectualness towards it. But there's some definite other highlights on here. I'm Back is a pretty boppish type. I'm Back is definitely a pretty boppish type one. This like a boppish kind of feeling fresh and snazzy type tune. I'd have to say in particular, it's like a breezy kind of spring and summer energy that this song particularly kind of has. And this is just like a basic kind of day outing pizzazz of a song, I'd have to say. Pretty nice one, just a real breezy type one. Really appreciate the appeal of this particular one. Like I was saying, this album is pretty car centric. Just the concept of a lot of these breezy type ones is to kind of get in like a bopper type appeal. Or even if these songs are kind of club songs, they're also pretty cruise out type songs. Just to appreciate the affability of just being out and about and just appreciating your ride and some pitches like that. Just kind of the breeziness of just being kind of in motion. Some of those type pitches, just being able to get towards it. So it's just kind of, I mean, this is a very bustling type project. It's the thing about Slim Thug is he was kind of not so much wanderlust as far as wanting to traverse across states and just lengthy travel as far as that pitching goes, but just air and running and pitches like that. It's kind of saying, I've got stuff to do apart from this. Smoke in the backyard, some pitches like that, or just some of that type, or just be at a club all day, something like that, or night, something like that. It's just kind of the appeal behind it. There's actually not a super ton of club songs on here the more I think about it. Most of these songs, like I was saying, that even if they are club songs like I Run, or Leanin' or some of those type ones, they also work in the same sense of being cruise out type songs than this more car centric type tunes as far as that particular pitch kind of goes. Smile's kind of a club song, but that one's kind of a breezy type one, and Traverse as well. So I Run, Smile, Thug are some ones. I mean, Thug is probably like one of the few songs on here I'd have to say. I'd have to say Thug is one of the few club songs on here that doesn't have some degree of Traverse in mind as far as that pitching goes. This is probably one of the most basic type ones for just not being in motion, I'd have to say. But still, I mean, I do feel like you could probably cruise out the Thug as well. So this is a pretty good pitch. But most of these are just kind of double entendres as far as that pitching goes, with just having meanings to kind of be in motion, but also kind of to kind of be halfway in motion, but then to also kind of be halfway post as far as that kind of particularly goes. Just flirting and smoking pitches like that, snacking some of those type pitches, residential type fare. Pretty good pitch for that. But I would have to say Top Drop is a pretty nice one. This says Paul Wall, and there's pretty good pitch. It's like a mellow and refined kind of lazy summer day cruising of a song, I'd have to say in particular. Definite smoke a sweet kind of kickback. Definite smoke a sweet kickback. I'd have to say it's pretty good, high as hell kind of hangout fun of a song. I'd have to say it's some good PlayStation music. Just watching football pitches like that, watching some Jackass, some comedy, some pitches like that, some stand-up comedy, some of those type fares as far as that particular kind of goes. It's some easy kind of mellow, just simple kickback type tunes kind of get. But this is once again some cruise out type music just within the aspect of just being able to do it. Just kind of hotbox to whip some pitches like that. Just some lazy. It's just a real sleepy kind of song. Some of these are just really sleepy. I feel like songs like Smile and Top Drop and I'm Back are just some sleepy type tunes to kind of get on here. Slim Thug is definitely a smoker. He doesn't have as much drinking songs on here as much, but I would have to say he definitely has some good smokers type tunes. So if you are looking for some smoke type tunes to have for some swishers and pitches like that, just smoke a few zones and pitches like that. Just a bunch of pitches just to really get some smoke on, and some powwows and pitches like that. Some great kind of tunes for that, especially in hotboxing and whip centric type stuff. Leanin's a pretty nice one. This is one of the most recent UGK songs. Once again, this is one of the final verses I think Pimp C was a part of before he passed in late 2007. So it's like a creeping kind of late evening traverse of a song, I'd have to say. This song has some UGK type feels in a more night sense. It's a pretty good concept for that, and it's like a good variation of a song to get. This is a good variation of the UGK type sound. Most of the time, UGK is in a more summer kind of lazy day type sense, I'd have to say in particular, but this is like a night type sense for some of that, just some night creeping pitches like that, just being whip centric and just kind of being whip bound and pitches like that, just within a night sense of just kind of cruising out, getting some Popeyes late at night, some pitches like that, some smoke sessions, and this is just a great song to get torched to. So it's really good, some real good appeals, just some night type of fare, just night owl type music. There's not a ton of songs like this on here either. It's just kind of the concept. Would have liked another song like this just to see what Slim Thug could have done with this without UGK on there. Some pitches like that. Another song that could have been like a clone of this, but still pretty good concept to get Bun B and Pimp C on this particular song as far as that particular kind of goes. Just look after some good stuff. Really like the edginess of this particular song. Just some midnight creeping, some pitches like that. Just some after hours type of appeal as far as that particular kind of goes. Just some good stuff. Associates is a pretty nice one. This is like a woozy type production on here. This really feels Texas Fried, I'd have to say. It's like a woozy kind of fuck the world, kind of Dave Malaise type tune, I'd have to say. It's definitely some Bruce work shift commerce, I'd have to say in particular. This is just like some basic kind of summer cruise energy, I'd have to say. Now this one's kind of a more middle fingers raised type tune. This for like homies that are just kind of doing you wrong and pitches like that. I'd have to suppose pretty good concept to get a song like this. The song has a good pitch of some characters for us that particularly kind of goes. This is the sort of song that Tupac would do or UGK would do. Some of those type pitches, Scarface, some of those type folks, Young Buck, some of those type folks. This would have to particularly kind of say, really like the production on here. This just really feels like some Dave Malaise, something like that. It's kind of a roused type mood when you're cruising around pitches like that. Just being able to say, just kind of in a more just kind of pissed off kind of mood or just annoyed type mood, just something like that. Just kind of aggravated some pitches just within the relative aspect. Just kind of, work sucks, some pitches like that. Just a good day to let off some steam. Some Associates is just a good song to let off some steam, some pitches like that. I had to say in particular. So it's a dope enough concept. And then She Like That's a pretty nice one. This is like a drowsy kind of Texas Fried Club haze of a song. I had to say in particular. It's definitely some good smoke sesh type song. So I'd say it's a feeling good kind of late day cruise vibes that this song particular kind of has, and this is just a great smog kind of hit. I'd have to say so. It's definitely some smoke ready type stuff. I'd have to say in particular. She Like That is just a very emphatic kind of drowsy smokish type tune. I would have to say just some pretty good hazy typeness, some pretty good hazy typeness just to get in particular, just some real drowsy type appeals that just works pretty well for all I'd have to say. So this is just a sleepy type one for just cruising out. Maybe you're not driving in this particular one, but you're high as hell, some of those type pitches. I mean, it works for that relative sense is to kind of smoke in the whip and some pitches like that. But just, of course, realizing the concept that it's a cruising type song, but it's also a song to get fucked up to. So it's just kind of the concept where you just have to mesh in between whether or not you're going to be driving every single time you're going to be smoking some of those type pitches. But it's just kind of the concept. Some of these just kind of work. I mean, you can listen to smoke songs and not actually smoke on them. It's just kind of the concept. You just look at it. If you're not smoking and you are just cruising around, it's just a pretty sleepy type song to kind of cruise around to, but it's probably going to make you want to smoke. So that's just kind of the concept about it, I'd have to say. I just look after this is kind of the thing. But yeah, I mean, basically recommending 8.5 songs out of 13 on this particular album. I'm going to go ahead and give this album like a 7.75 out of 10. Talk about the 5 songs I didn't recommend on here. Really, I would have liked Welcome to Houston if it had just been shorter. There just were too many rappers on that particular song. There's just a ton. There was really just like a ton of rappers on that particular song, Welcome to Houston. It's kind of felt unnecessary to kind of get. I just felt like a 9-minute song was just a little bit too lengthy for, at least for my taste, I'd have to say. My Bitch was just kind of a poor type one. Didn't really appreciate this one as much. I mean, this one was just like a worse variation of Smile. I feel like Smile is a great song for ladies, but My Bitch was just not quite as compelling as far as that particular pitch kind of went along with it. It was just kind of limp and didn't really have much of the appeal, especially in like the productions. I mean, it was a good topic, of course, just within the concept of it, but it just didn't really deliver in terms of like the aspect of like the overall engagement of it. And Show Me Love was just kind of a poor Manny Fresh type song. I just was kind of disappointed in that one. I mean, normally Manny Fresh, I want to say that Manny Fresh just had better songs with Slim Thug back in 2005. I think he definitely did them better back in those days, but this one was just kind of a flop of a song. Didn't really amount to much. Boss of All Bosses, the title track was just kind of a poor intro that just didn't really amount to much. I mean, the production was kind of somewhat okay on there, somewhat glitzy, but it just was not that compelling of like a real affability type one to really get here. This was kind of expecting a little bit something with a little bit more just snarl about it. I just feel like the concept, I mean, that one, I don't know, just the overall aspect of just like the electricity behind the song was just not quite as sparky as like what it probably needed to be. I just feel like songs like Thug and Smile nailed that particular pitch a little bit better. And just there are songs with better character like Associates and Lean In and some of those type ones. I just would have to say I felt like Slim Thug just didn't deliver as much on like the club oriented type songs on here, just the more kind of glitzy type flash. Songs like I Run were definitely good and Thug were definitely good, but I just feel like the concept for some reason that one just didn't hit as well. This would have to say so that's kind of the concept. So this album gets a 7.75 out of 10. The social score I'll go ahead and give like an 8.752 out of 10. So I feel like the 3 singles are all pretty damn excellent. And this concept is pretty car centric in terms of the concept of just cruising out and having a lot of good affable type tunes for being on the go and pitches like that, just kind of being out and about, appreciating the breeze, some pitches like that, the spring and summer energy, some of those type fares, getting snackage, getting drive through, picking up ladies, some pitches like that, getting some smoke sessions, pitches like that. Yeah, this is kind of the concept, but there's not like a real ton of real kind of affable kind of nightlife on here. Most of this album is just kind of like where you have some stuff to do, possible just tasks getting done, and just kind of being more in motion. It's kind of more busybody type stuff as far as that particular kind of goes, which is fine within a certain aspect. But if you're more grounded and you just want to post up a bed, it doesn't have a ton of hangout type songs to really get. Most of this, even if you are hanging out, it's kind of more whip centric to say you're kind of hanging out in a whip or something like that, more so than like a nightclub or at a crib or something like that. Some of those type pitches just within that relative fair. So it's this kind of concept. Most of this album's pretty much poured. Most of this album is just kind of on the go, but it works. It's good music. It's this kind of concept. You just have to understand this is not very grounded. So I'd have to say so that's the concept. But in terms of the future, like Slim Thug has put out a number of projects. Apparently, he has more than 8, 9, or 10 albums as far as that pitch kind of has. As far as that pitch kind of particularly goes, I'm definitely going to get to some more of these. I am eventually going to review the Boss Hog Outlaws album, some pitches like that. We're going to get to a lot more of these. I was actually expecting to give this album like a lot higher of a score. I thought I was going to wind up giving this like an 8.75 or at least a 9, something like that. I remember I used to really enjoy this album a lot more back in the day, but I guess that's kind of the concept about it. I mean, I do feel like 8.5 out of 13 is still pretty damn good. But it's just kind of the concept. I just feel it just kind of makes it sting a little bit that I'm giving this like a 7.75. I do feel like it should definitely be higher, but that's the concept about it. But I do recommend this project. It is good. It's just pretty, it may not be packed to the gills full of nightlife, but it is got some good and quality stuff on here, and I do recommend it.